Hello, first generation students, families, friends, and supporters, and a special welcome to the UT Dallas First Generation Spring Graduating Class of 2022. My name is Derek Jackson, and together with Dr. Courtney Brecheen, we oversee first generation student programs here at UT Dallas. I want to start this address off by offering my sincere congratulations to every first generation student that will be graduating in the spring of 2022. As a first generation alumnus from UT Dallas, I know intimately what this accomplishment means to you, your families, and those who have supported you along the way. I also want to acknowledge the incredible circumstances in which many of you will be graduating in this spring. As a first generation student at UT Dallas, I did not have to contend with the circumstances of a pandemic, of virtual learning, of returning to in-person classes with de-densification. I only had one winter storm occur when I was an undergrad. I didn't have three. That's just a testament of the amazing determination of my fellow first generation comets at UT Dallas. So I want to give my sincere congratulations. I could not be more proud of all of you, and I'm so proud to join you in the ranks of UT Dallas alums. First Generation Student Programs was created to offer centralized, comprehensive support for all first generation students at UT Dallas. Dr. Brecheen and I had a mission, and that was to support every first generation student in the best way possible by bringing in resources, bringing in alums, creating events that celebrate our first generation identity, and celebrating in a big way for First Generation Celebration Week. We've been on this journey now since 2019, and I'm so incredibly proud of all of our collective efforts. I want to thank the First Generation Support Network, that's faculty and staff here at UT Dallas who support First Generation student programs. And I want to thank all of the students, because without you, we would not have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished, and we would not be on this incredible path to even more first generation greatness here at UT Dallas. To my fellow first generation college graduates, the future is bright. I hope that you will stay connected with us, because once a first generation Comet, always a first generation Comet, and we are here for you as you move into the next phase of your journey, whether that's going into the workforce, graduate school, professional school, wherever your journey is going to take you, know that we've got your back. I want to turn it over now to Annette, Megan, and Dr. Brecheen for a special address from two of our first generation UT Dallas alums. You're going to hear some inspirational words and some insight into what happens next after this. I personally asked Dr. Brecheen to find us two superstars that could inject some positivity into our first generation graduating class and shed some light on what comes next, because we know that the sky is the limit. Once again, we're so very proud of each and every one of you. We look forward to what you're going to do next, and I want you to enjoy this moment, because it only happens once. Whoosh.
Since you all are getting both the university-wide and school and your academic program-based ceremonies to recognize your degree completion, we wanted to dedicate our first generation graduate recognition to some advice and solidarity from young UT Dallas alums who were in your position not too long ago, even though it feels like a long time ago. When Derek prompted me to identify alumni for this opportunity, I immediately thought of these two women. They are amazing people and impressive representatives of the first generation graduate identity. Let's start with Annette. During her time at UT Dallas, Annette bravely navigated straying from family pressures to pursue her academic and professional passion in psychology. She served in multiple leadership capacities, participated in research, and provided her amazing voice to promoting social justice. And ultimately, she gained admission to Sam Houston State University to pursue her master's in clinical psychology, which she is about to complete very soon this summer. Now she has received an offer to begin her career in research at UT Southwestern before she will eventually start a PhD program. Megan has been a fixture in my life since she joined UT Dallas in 2014, whether it's popping in my office while she was a student here or now staying in touch via text. Throughout her undergraduate career, she seemingly gracefully balanced serving in just about every leadership position possible, being a student athlete, and participating in research at Scottish Rite. But I knew that while many others thought it was purely her commitment to showing up, which is important in life, and natural intellect that allowed her to succeed, I knew it was much more. Without glorifying the grind too much, I will say that Megan, on the down low and sometimes not so subtly, worked very hard, endured a lot of stress, made sacrifices, and maximized every hour of every day to get into medical school. And now to the next stage of her life, a residency at Duke University. So hi to you both, and we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start, first, I would love for you both to share some of your primary identities that you think influence your daily life, especially any that provide more insight on your personal background for our students. Megan, you want to start?
Sure. So personal identities, or primary identities, I should say. For me, I would say number one is child of God. That's a big one for me. But also first generation undergraduate, but first generation Nigerian American as well. Daughter, sister, older and younger, leader, woman and African American. An interesting one that maybe doesn't come to mind is, but like I take up a lot of presence. I'm very tall. That's a primary one. I see how that impacts my life. Yeah. Those are the big ones that come to mind. Student, healer, I don't know, friend. So that's me.
That's a great list. And I really appreciate, you talking about how much space you take up in a room, because it's both personality, charisma, and being tall. I never thought about that in terms of physical attributes and personality wise. Good ones. Okay. Annette, how about you?
Yeah, same with Megan, child of God, that's the first one. African and Canadian immigrant. So have that dual immigrant experience. Also first gen, but in a different way. My parents did get their bachelor's degree, but not in the States. So I was kind of, trial and error guinea pig when I applied to college. And also a Black woman in mental health, where it's already stigmatized in our community, but I'm also an active voice in that space. So that definitely is seen in my day-to-day as well. Also a student, a researcher, and a unpaid but full-time comedian. That's my thing. So I always get told that I make everybody laugh, but it's because I'm uncomfortable with silence. So yeah.
Listen, you and I are kindred spirits for many reasons. That is one of them. So not to have any pauses or space, let's feel that. So on to the questions, and we'll jump right in. So what were you thinking about? It's genuinely maybe not that too long ago, but it feels like a long time ago when you were graduating. And now, what do you wish you had been more conscious of during that time or present for when you were preparing or going through commencement or shortly thereafter? Either one of you can start. Annette, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah, so I graduated in the pandemic, so I didn't get a graduation. So I spent a lot of my time kind of wishing I had things, because my senior year just got cut short. And so I was, really worried about how the pandemic was going to affect school. My mom was also really sick during the time. So it just made it more salient because now I didn't have school to focus on. It was now I'm at home and I have to deal with everything at home. But I just really wish I had spent more time like reflecting on all the accomplishments I had while I was at UTD, because it was very easy to lose sight of that when I wasn't going to walk. I got my degree in the mail on some random Tuesday in like June, and it felt very anticlimactic. But looking back, I was like, oh, wow, like look at everything I had to overcome, all the things that I was able to do in a short period of time after changing my major like 3 or 4 times and breaking down in Courtney's office, probably monthly. But after all of that, I still accomplished so much and was even able to get into a master's program, which I didn't think I could. So I just wish I would have spent more time just focusing on everything that I had done instead of everything I couldn't do in that moment.
Yeah, I like that positive reframing instead of focusing on what was going on in the present, not always positive, yeah, reflecting on the positive things you did accomplish and what you had to look forward to. I love that. Megan, what about you? That was a fun time for your whole cohort.
Yeah, it was. And it makes me very sad that Annette didn't get to experience it, but I love that space and opportunity for her to feel like, that space to see like the opportunity to reflect and like see what she did had, because that's something maybe because of all the wildness that was going on in our time, I think very important reflection was missed. And like when you speak on, what we wish we would have done a better job at, I wish I would have paused a little longer in that space before jumping into med school. But I'll go back and tell you about that time for us, things that were on my mind. I knew I was going into doing that traditional route, going directly into med school. So thinking about how I, as all the things that I am, was going to fit into that space at the Texas A&M College of Medicine. Loved it there after 4 years. But going into that at the beginning, I was not sure what that was going to look like. I knew I was going into a more rural space. I didn't know how all of me was going to mesh there. And I didn't know, just a lot of things, how I was going to make it rebuilding, right? Like that's a new thing to start to think about once you graduate, like all the things you spent 4 years or 3.5 years. I know we have all those accelerated students doing, and like building who you are. You're going to go into a new space where nobody knows you. So those are things where, and like, I was thinking about making new friends, which is like a fun thing, but also a hard thing. And especially when you're like not super extroverted. I seem like I am, but I promise I'm not. That leads into the other big thing I was thinking about at that time, was trying not to go into the next season of my life with like any inhibitions or like baggage, things that would hold me back, because I knew I wanted to do something big, great. I couldn't list it. I couldn't tell you specifically. I just know I wanted to be prepared for whatever God had in my season. And I knew speaking into people would be really important for that. But I knew a huge fear for me, terrible fear, was public speaking. It still kind of is, but at that time certainly was like, I'd sit there and go through like what was an issue for me. So that was one of them. I couldn't talk to folks. So something I used throughout that last semester was just randomly talking to people. And then I set myself up and submitted an application to be the commencement speaker for my college. Not really think like I knew they had a ton of applications, but I just did. I was like, if that's for me, that's for me. But like, I knew I was just my regular self. So I was like, if it happens, it happens. There wasn't no big of a deal. And then I got the email that said I would be the speaker. And then I said, I said, oh, that's real. So one, be careful what you do. But, you can't back out of things, or at least my personality was that I could not back out once I put it in there, put that out there. So it became the anxiety around preparing for that, standing in front of the crowd and being able to express something and share something that is meaningful to that time, to that experience. Because all of y'all are at UTD, even though a lot of you spent time during the pandemic, college is big. It's bigger than we think, and you don't get to know everybody and be in everybody's experiences, and different people experience different things. And so how do you amalgamate that into a conversation? They gave me 7 minutes. I know I went longer, but and so that was just an interesting time to just speak into people. But being up there, it was amazing to just see the group of y'all and like see the group or my cohort being together, at least in that moment, and just having that shared space of just like gratitude that we made it through this experience, whatever that journey looked like, right? And like for you folks, it's gonna look so different, but there's still gratitude in the fact that you made it through, very much to Annette's point earlier. So that was what I was thinking about. There was fear factors in it, but like once I got to that point, the preparation was real. The preparation was real, but it was a very beautiful opportunity for me to meet a concern and fear that I have at probably an extreme level, and then I don't know, be in a space with my peers. So that's what I was thinking about. And as far as reflection, now that I've gone through the 4 years of med school and I think back on my college times, I wish that I took more time to just like take pause of what we're doing, because you were going to enter med school or the working field or graduate school or become a researcher like Annette, or like just get into it. And you were going to be thinking the grind the entire time. Life is going to keep going. So I wish, like, in reflection, that I took those moments to pause. And like, in some of those moments I found, yeah, I was pausing a lot by force. Maybe Courtney was forcing me to do that sometimes, where it was like, Megan, I think you should come to this event we're doing. But like, and just enjoy the people that you're around. But like, that's a big part, because your relationships, as you move and pursue for more, are things that you need to think about in the same way you think about your job, and the same way you think about your aspirations. Those people and those relationships around you, you need to add and upkeep those as well. And just do the things in that time that you want. Make time for it, because time's never going to make for you. So you got to just make the time. And when people say that, like, really stop and go, okay, I need to put in time, or else it's never going to happen. So that's something I would just throw out there.
That's perfect. I think it's important, finding time for gratitude and making space to think as you go through life, what parts of my identity and, goals do I want to keep? What do I want to let go of as you kind of transition at these different kind of increments? I really appreciate that reflection. So now y'all might remember this, but we always tell our students that being first generation does not stop after graduation, right? That identity is something that you can carry with you. So not to freak people out, but to manage expectations and prepare them for how it might impact the next stage of their life. I think that awareness is really important to kind of counteract something like imposter syndrome, or to be like, why didn't I know that? To be kind to yourself and be like, oh yeah, why would I know that? Type of moments. So how has navigating daily activities and interactions been for you when you reflect on the role of your identities in those contexts? And any advice for our students to prepare them for their journeys on that topic? Who wants to do a quick fire on that one? Yes, Annette.
I don't like talking much either, but I need to be better. So I got to start now. In undergrad, I was that one person that signed up for everything all the time and would constantly be told by Courtney, hey, you signed up for too much. And I'm like, try me. And then I'll buckle and fold and be like, hey, I should have known. But because of that, I was always in a lot of spaces. And I was always realizing that I was the only one that looked like me a lot of the time. Like outside of USS, it was just me. In my psychology classes, it was just me. In my research lab, it was just me. And it's still like that, even at Sam Houston State, where it's in the middle of nowhere, Texas, by a bunch of prisons. So you can imagine the type of environment that is. I'm usually just the only one. And it's so easy to look at and focus on that sometimes and kind of beat yourself down and overanalyze yourself, because you're going into a space where you look a little bit different or you sound a little bit different. But my advice in undergrad and even going beyond that, the first thing is just making those connections, like making connections with people who are in your field and even look like you. Like a lot of my friends in the research space and in the clinical psychology space are people I have not met in person, mainly because I was in the pandemic for the last 2 years. But it was really cool to see them at, I went to a conference back in Denver in March, and I got to meet a lot of them. And it was so cool to see how many Black female and Black male psychologists were there and were doing research and doing work. And I was like, wow, like this whole time y'all were here. And now I'm making, friends and connections that will take me throughout my career. But even at UT Dallas, like when you leave, don't forget your mentors. Keep in contact with them, email them, even if it's just to say, hey, life is not going really great right now. I need advice. Those connections matter. They know you very well. They've known you for the last 4 years. So who better to tell everything than those mentors? So keep up with them. And then, ask around. Like, don't be afraid to ask around, ask alumni, ask former teachers. Get an idea of what they're going through or what they went through, because Megan and I's experience are just 2 experiences. There's several other people who have graduated from here and have experienced completely different things and have completely different advice. And so it's a great way to kind of survey. The research in me is speaking now, but it's a great way to get data to, understand, like, how do I move forward? What's the best approach for me? And then you have options because you've gotten, different tips and tricks from different people to help navigate, how to move into the workforce, into medical or doctoral school, into professional school, navigating those different identities and not feeling alienated, but feeling like you're in a community and you have a community of people to support you.
I think that's great, because I think it is important to find your community at every stage of your life and to sustain those connections, because as you go through, they're just going to continue to diversify and multiply. And that is kind of the key to staying grounded and supported throughout, no matter what. Megan, do you have anything to add? I know you actually kind of addressed that a little bit in your previous answer, but do you have anything to add?
I really think Annette did a beautiful job. I will just say the only thing I would add is that you need to be, and this I'm speaking to y'all, you need to be proud of who you are. All the things that make you, you need to be proud of that and confident in that, because you are the only person that has you and knows you fully, right? You're going to walk into spaces where people are going to perceive you and you have no control of how they perceive you. But what you don't need to do is shrink as a result of that, or feel less than because of that, because that's going to inhibit you from doing all the things that you are interested in doing or pursuing in all the fields that Annette just listed and more and beyond that. Or if you're going straight into the workforce, why aren't you just as deserving than the person next to you to get the promotion or the opportunities? You are. Don't make yourself less just because you're first gen. Maybe you don't have all the, the background, the people or the knowledge base or whatever it may be. You can get it though. You can get it. So what I would add to that is don't let where you're starting be the limiter of where you finish, because that's not it. To Annette's point, make sure you continue to network, because what you weren't born with, you can pick up along the way. And so that's what I had. That's what I would add to that. And just being okay with being the only one, because if you walk into that situation, you don't have control of that. Now for the next group, you can say something. Now that you're in that space, now that you've infiltrated, you can say something. You can speak up, right? Annette spoke on it being one of the only in her program. Similar to me at Texas A&M, and definitely for me now that I'm in my Dallas campus as the only African-American in my class. That's not okay, right? But like, that's my space, because not just from my experience, but for my peers' experience, people around you, they're going to be taking care of people that are reflective of you, right? You want them to be around those different people. So be okay with advocating with who you are, right? And don't let other people make you feel small. That's all I would add to that.
I love that. These students during the pandemic have been subjected to our theme of proud and positive around the first gen identity. And we always say, like, you have to live it and breathe that and believe it in order for other people to do so. And so being proud and positive of who you are across the spectrum of your identities is so important, because like you said, I think that exudes and is palpable and will dictate your confidence in using your voice to change, compositions and representation in those spaces as you take on leadership positions. 100%. Okay. So I think we have all endured a lot during the pandemic, and I don't want to bring down the room, but at a minimum, for every student across the country, there has been an opportunity loss. Some that can be quantified, maybe some not so much, but I think all equally important to acknowledge and really grieve and learn from as we move forward kind of in our new era. So what, for both of you, just briefly, like I said, I won't be too sad in this setting, but what have been some of your losses? And from an asset-based approach and a strengths, like kind of based approach as well, how did you overcome it that might yield some inspiration to our graduates and maybe have them reflect on what they've overcome undergrad-wise just by getting here to this, these coming weeks, but also moving forward, kind of constantly prompt that reflection on, this was a challenge or this was a loss in life. And now what am I going to do next? What do I have in my arsenal? Either one of y'all can start on that one.
So for me, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I didn't get to graduate in 2020. So that was a huge loss. I mean, I went through 4 years of undergrad and I was very excited to finally graduate. And then it was just like, it felt like it was just robbed from me.
Yeah.
And so my graduation was just a little dinner at home with my certificate or my degree. And that was it. Kind of had to move on after that. And, all my friends being back home and we were all separated again, it just felt very lonely at times.
Yeah.
But even last February, I lost my mom to Lewy body's dementia. And that was very hard because I was literally in my first year of my master's program and she was in another country at the time. So having to not only lose my mom, but then fly 16 hours across the world to have her funeral in the middle of finals or midterms. It was in the middle of midterms in my first year of grad school was easily the worst part of this whole experience. But with both of those things came grief. And believe it or not, as a psychology student, I was not going to counseling. And I finally decided to go, and it changed my life. And I know we talk about, oh, mental health is important, going, we need to be advocates. But I, as a clinical psychologist or about to be, like, it really does matter. Like, your mental health really does matter. And don't take the losses lightly, because you don't know how much it's going to impact you later. The nerd moment, but DSM-5 text revision just came out like not too long ago. And one of the new disorders on there is prolonged grief disorder. And they recognize that because of how much loss people went through during the pandemic. I had a couple of friends lose 3, 4, 5 family members and friends during the pandemic. I lost my mom and 3 others to the pandemic as well. And so, I would highly, highly recommend to get counseling. You don't even have to be going through extreme grief or a traumatic experience to go. Even if it's just, I'm stressed out, or, hey, I just don't feel like myself all of a sudden, go. UTD, if you're kind of come back for grad school or whatever, a lot of them have access to mental health services for free. My graduate program has mental health services for free. Take advantage of that. There's a lot of low cost programs as well in the community if you, don't have insurance or, just need that extra financial support. But, that's a strength. Like, going to mental health counseling is not a weakness. It's actually a strength, because you realize that you need to get back to your equilibrium. And so you've taken that step. Don't let society or anybody else tell you that, oh, you're weak because you went to go and see a mental health counselor. No, sis, you're strong, and you're going to be stronger when you come out, and you're going to have new tools, new resources, new ways of thinking to, overcome the next battle or the next loss in your life.
Absolutely. Preach. You are strong, and I think promoting constantly being aware, that self-awareness and willingness to try new and scary things that mean investing in yourself. I think a lot of our first generation population is very selfless and giving and supporting of others, whether it be through family obligations or working. But investing in yourself through something like mental health is a strength and will be an asset that could serve students for the rest of their lives in these kind of next stages, 100%. Megan, anything to add on that about loss and the strengths and assets that might resonate with some of our students in terms of overcoming them?
Absolutely. But I do want to just underscore, underline, highlight, bold, italicize everything Annette just said, because your mental health is critical to who you are, on top of which that self-awareness piece is humongous. It's huge, especially as knowing the type of people, if you are anything like me and Annette, which I know you guys are, you will pursue and persist and just keep going, and probably just run yourself into the ground if you do not remain aware of who you are and like what you're doing. Because in order to continue to do all of that, you have to take care of you. And you got to take care of you first, which is a hard lesson for us. I know it is. But you just have to be self-aware of that. It makes me think, thinking about this pandemic, trying to even put that together, what was I could I been grieving or thinking about during that time, because that time was so nebulous. I felt like so much was going on. It was hard to concentrate. And to who our identity is, in altruism and wanting to do for everybody during that time, I served as president of my class and student body at that time of the College of Medicine. So that meant for me, I didn't really give space for grief or resonating with pain or harm or that was going on at the time. And for many of you, I know you were aware that during the pandemic, the bulk of the pandemic, we were also dealing with social unrest. So grief looked very different for different people, right? I'm also a medical student. And so I'm literally in the hospital, and so are my peers, or we're supposed to be. But some people, come to find out, are sick, right? Like, I don't know everything going on in everyone's lives, but they themselves are sick or immunocompromised. Are they going to be able to finish their medical degree? Now that's the biggest thing on their mind. Or I had classmates, family members are in the hospital, family members are passing away. They don't even care about this. Not them, their main focus is like their family. How do I support you and your family in this time? At the same time, we were taking boards. For you people going into medicine, step 1, step 2, you know, that's one of the next biggest thing on your plate. Those things are getting canceled. Literally, shops are on fire. You cannot go and take your exam kind of thing. Things are canceled. And at that point, I was like, now what in the world is going on? It couldn't be, I don't know, I couldn't even attend. But I was so focused on, I gotta help everyone in this situation. I was ignoring not only myself, but my family at times. And in some of the things we're speaking on, you know, maintaining those relationships. So you're hearing a lot, and you saw a lot of life is not long, life is not short. So while people have life, that is the time for you to invest in it yourself and the people around you. And I was not doing a good job of that. I know, because my own sibling was a victim of a hate crime during that time, ran off the road, and like, I was not paying attention to any of that until I'm in the bay of a hospital and just hoping for the best for one of my siblings. How did I get to that? You know, so that's that self-awareness piece in the time of like grieving, super important. And it's super important to take a step back. And it's super important to not let yourself be overburdened, but also not let other people overburden you. Because as first generations, you're going to be the first of many things. And so people are going to look to you to be the spokesperson for that. But that sometimes can be a space where you're just reliving your own pain and trauma. You don't necessarily have to do that. So I will say you have to have self-awareness for yourself, but if that's a space and a time, an opportunity that you see to empower others, and also that allows you to empower yourself, go for it. But I will also say protect you, and you have to tell people how to treat you in those spaces. So that's what I would add to already amazing response.
I think that's really powerful, and you both are my heroes, and I appreciate that advice because I think it's going to be really important. Okay, so we are going to end. We're going to bring the room back up, right, to a proud and positive and excited place, because I do want our students to take a second and be like, oh, dang, like it is a big deal. You know, it's not the last step in a lot of our students' journeys. And so it's pretty easy to dismiss, like, you know, completing bachelor's degree, whatever, because they're going on to the next. However, it is important and it's amazing. So lastly, please share one way these students and their families, even maybe who might be listening, how they can find joy in the next stage of their life, or just why it is important to focus on the present and enjoy the process, or if you want to share why what they are doing and why they matter individually. So Megan, you want to start that one this time?
Yes. Okay, so on why you guys matter, wow. You don't even understand the inspiration, right? The inspiration to the people that are going to follow after you, the people that are going to see what you went through in this time. Because people were watching, and especially the other people who are in this group and unit with you in the undergraduate success scholars program. A lot of y'all are mentors to them. And so in your position, you never know who is watching you. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, people are watching you. So it's so important for you to not only celebrate, but recognize everything you just did. You did that. So one, I just want to say I'm proud of you. On top of that, you should see this as, yes, you know, your launching pad into the next great thing that you're going to do, but really take time and really like thank the people around you that celebrated and supported you through this. Because you know how rough it was to just make it through this process. And so do they, I'm sure. Those are the people you were complaining to and being loud with, and maybe even getting frustrated with at times. But you got here, and it was likely because of the sport and their willingness to stand with you. So I think thankfulness and gratitude in this time is huge, but also recognition of the fact that you did this, and it was on your back. You know what I mean? Like I don't want this to be an opportunity for imposter syndrome to sneak in and say, you know, oh, I just happenstance to, I don't know, somehow get here and someone just handed me a degree. No, that was you studying those hours. That was you taking the time. That was you reading those books, watching those videos if you're not a reader, and like taking the time and suffering day in and day out. So you need to recognize that. That's hugely important, because as you move forward in everything that you're going to do, you don't want I don't want, and you don't want anything to sneak in to make anything questionable about your credibility and what you're capable of doing. And if you find yourself in a position where maybe you don't know what you're doing, you can learn because you learned to get here. That's the energy I want you guys to have as you move forward. You can learn if you don't know it, but likely you already know it and you have the skill set to get there. And you need to believe that because you absolutely have it. And it's such an amazing space to be here and telling you that, because I'm telling you that from here as someone who was where you are not too long ago. And I know there were times where I questioned myself or my capabilities. There's no need for that. And just on joy, I said it earlier, but I'll just sneak it in again. In everything you do, in every opportunity, in every stage, take time, take pause to recognize and enjoy the spaces you're in. Enjoy those little accomplishments. I passed this test, or I got, I sealed this deal, whatever it is, wherever you're going, take the time to enjoy that, because yes, you did that. And all those little things add up to your happiness and peace at the end of the day. Because if you sit there and miss it, you're not going to realize all the work you're doing, and then you're going to find yourself unhappy. Don't do that. Don't do that. Enjoy every step of this process. And I mean every step, because you don't know when it all, you just don't know the future is what I'm trying to tell you. So it behooves you to enjoy every step.
Beautiful. All right, Annette, it is time for an Annette mic drop moment on how to enjoy the process and find some joy as they go through finishing some finals, honestly, and then also going into commencement ceremonies and post-graduation life.
So this is something that my mentor told me here that I'm about to graduate from my master's program, and I wish I did this in undergrad. Write yourself a letter as to how proud of yourself you are. Let me tell you something. Writing that letter, tears. Thank God I was like typing it and not writing it, because that paper would have been soaked. But just writing like why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's a 3-part letter. Why you're doing what you're doing, what you're going to do next. So like if that means you got into medical school and that's where you're going, or you're going into a master's and that's where you're going, like what you're going to do next. And then why you're proud of yourself. And that changes how you look at your last week, last semester. Because it's like Megan said, it's so easy to kind of forget that you did this whole degree because you're just so focused on, okay, I'm about to go on to the next thing. But just taking that time to be like, yeah, I really did that thing. Wow. And then frame it. I'm going to print mine out and frame it when I'm done with finals. And I'm going to hang it up there next to my master's degree once I get it. And it's just a reminder of like how far I've come. Like I literally just not too long ago didn't think I could finish my psychology degree in time. And now I'm about to finish a master's. Like that's nuts. And take time to do some hobbies. Do some hobbies, because you probably spent all 4 years just in the grind. Do some stuff. Like I love knitting. That is a thing that I've taken up now, and I will knit, and that's what I do. And it's so like mindful and just allowing you just to be present. If that means like going shopping, because shopping is a hobby. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. It's a hobby. I'm an expert shopper. I got coupons. DM me if you want them. And like that's a fun thing to do, and just celebrate, enjoy that time. And this is just for those who are going into research or even medicine, or psychology or law or whatever. Make an academic Twitter, because it's so cool to see what all the other people in your field are doing and getting to like celebrate that and share what you've done. And this like is like low key, it's not selfish, but anyways, I would post on there, for example, that, I'm getting a new job somewhere, and just seeing everybody, people who you don't even know, saying, I'm proud of you, or, look at what you've accomplished. Sometimes hearing it from someone else makes it more salient, because being first gen, it's hard to, tell yourself good job when you have that burden on you the whole time. And so making a professional or academic Twitter is great, because you see what everybody else is doing. You get to contribute to that conversation, and even just get in a time to celebrate with other people that are graduating with you. So those are just different practical ways to experience that joy. But I would highly recommend that letter. The letter one is really, it really does open up perspective. So yeah.
I love that. I think we are going to do that as an activity as students come pick up their graduation pins that say UT Dallas First Gen Graduate. Absolutely love that. Thank you both so much for your time, for participating in this interview today, and for sharing your advice and in some cases, your stories. You are both role models, you're heroes, and you're going to be world changers. And I am so grateful to you. But thank you both so much. I really appreciate it.